Hi guys! Cycling is fun, woodworking is fun, and most fun of all is building yourself a wooden bicycle. Look at this. This is my homemade wooden road bike and I'm going to show you how I did it. The frame is made of wooden strips, most of which are 5 mm thick, so we need a lot of wood, in our case maple, bright wood, and walnut, dark wood. Could you please speed up a little? Thanks. The first thing to do is to draw the frame geometry on a large wooden board. 3 parts have to be particularly accurately placed in relation to each other: the bottom bracket, the head tube and the seat tube. Let's first drill the hole for the bottom bracket. It has to be nice and straight and of the right depth to the millimeter so that everything is nicely centered in the frame. Then come the grooves for the head tube and the seat tube. We mill these, of course again to the right depth, so that everything will be nicely aligned. A bit of the board is now in the way of the fork, so we cut it off and insert the fork. The fork, by the way, is already in the head tube. Here it is. Now we mix the epoxy resin, that's the adhesive. But be careful, epoxy is allergenic, so always wear gloves. Now we can insert the threaded tube of the bottom bracket and glue the middle layer of the strips. That's the way it will go on. Saw a new layer of strips to size and glue them to the previous layer with epoxy resin. To harden the adhesive, we have to press the new strips to the previous ones just a little bit, which we can do by weighing them down with whatever we find in the workshop. The mount for the real wheel is made of aluminum. Time for some metalworking now. Drilling and sawing as well as filing so that we don't scratch ourselves. Then we have to position the mount accurately. This is what it looks like up close. The part in the middle will hold the rear wheel axle and it is bolted to the 2 dovetail-like parts which in turn are glued to the frame. Now come the chainstays and seat stays which connect the rear wheel mount to the rest of the frame. The bottom bracket is quite a critical component because it's subjected to particularly high loads. For that reason we glue a bit of fiberglass fabric between the wooden layers. This is what fiberglass looks like. It's like a shiny silvery fabric, but when it's soaked with epoxy it becomes transparent. Okay guys, now time for the logo. My wooden road bike is to be called Woodstock and will not have just some painted logo, but a beautiful wooden one. We need to draw the letters on the wooden strips, a maple and a walnut strip, and then cut them out with a jigsaw. It's the bright wood of maple for the letters and the dark walnut for the spaces in between. This done, the first side of the frame, I think it's the left one, is already done. So we turn the frame over and get to work on the other half. Of course, the other half is built up in exactly the same way as before, layer by layer, strip by strip. And of course the right hand side also gets its logo. And of course the logo once again looks pretty nice. Now we have to drill a few holes into the frame to feed plastic hoses through the frame. These hoses will later accommodate the brake and gear cables. Here you can see it nicely. The frame itself is hollow with plastic hoses inside. And now something just for the sake of beauty. If we are going to build our own wooden road bike, then we'll of course personalize it properly. My bike gets my initials, M and H, which we mill into the top tube with the help of a template and then fill the milled grooves with the other type of wood. Actually, we are almost done now. But of course we still have to smooth the frame using planes, files and our orbital sander. Only the very last sanding is done by hand and also wet, by the way, because then it becomes especially smooth. Now there's only one last but very important thing missing that will make our wooden bike super robust. Some members of the frame are subject to particularly high stresses when riding, primarily the down tube, which experiences quite a bit of torque when ridden with extreme force, and we'll reinforce these areas with glass fiber fabric. So we put the glass fibers onto the down tube, mix some epoxy resin and apply the epoxy. This makes the glass fibers transparent, as we already know, and everything looks like wood again. Then we coat the rest of the frame once with epoxy resin and then paint it with a transparent gold varnish. Now it is rock solid, weatherproof, and even the wood worm doesn't stand a chance. Finally, we mount all the attachments, handlebar, saddle, chain and so on, and we are done. Cheers! As a final attachment, my personal bike gets kind of a wooden handlebar box for the onboard tools, because as a bike builder, naturally, you're always happy to have your favorite tools close to you. Okay guys, that's how it's done. And well, there still is the question, is this a really good bicycle? Well, the future will show, but actually I already know, because this bicycle has a predecessor, built in very much the same way. And this predecessor took me in the last 10 years for over 40,000 kilometers to all sorts of spectacular places. Look at this. H-BRS, the Mont Ventoux, the Col du Galibier, the Col du Tourmalet, the Col du Solor, the Stilfser Joch, the Pfitscher Joch, and all sorts of other mountain passes. Such a wooden bicycle is a really good thing. Okay, and now I'm going to cycle on. If you have fun building your own bicycle, we'll see us on the road. Bye!
Klasse.